Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, it is your friendly neighborhood Kevin Hines, and I'm here today representing the Hope Rising Summit, the first of its kind, first annual summit, virtual summit, all virtual summit for suicide prevention and mental health and well-being, held all around the world globally, and it is a summit that is headed up by the Magellan Mental Health and the Kevin and Margaret Hines Foundation, and we will be launching to over 130 speakers on this platform on September 26th, which is right now. And right now with me today, I have the wonderful and amazing Dana Whitmer, who is a beautiful soul, an old soul, and an amazing human being who lost her son tragically, Matthew, to suicide off the Golden Gate Bridge. We're going to be talking about a heavy topic today. We're going to talk about suicide, so there's a trigger warning there. If you need to have somebody else be in the room with you to watch this, please do so. And if you are triggered by talk about suicide, maybe you need to exit the room. But this is really something we need to discuss. We also have with us Paul Muller of the Bridge Rail Foundation. And Paul is equally an amazing human being who cares deeply about this cause and has fought to raise the net at the Golden Gate Bridge with Dana. And next to them is Kimberly Renee Gamboa, who lost her son Kyle to the Golden Gate Bridge as well. And so we are going to be talking about today the devastating harbinger of death that is the Golden Gate Bridge that we're trying to turn into a beacon of hope and light. And the Golden Gate Bridge had its first suicide, I believe, in 1939. A man named Harold Wobbler, a World War II veteran, who went to the bridge and he said, "This is as far as I go." And the bridge was opened in 1937. By 1939, first suicide. And Joseph Strauss, the engineer of the bridge, believed there would be no suicides there, and he was terribly mistaken. In the last 83 years to 84 years of that bridge being opened, over 1,800 people have taken their lives and died by suicide. There are some people that believe it's well over 2,000 or 3,000 or higher because of all the bodies that wash away to sea, never to be found, or eaten by fish to the bone. On that note, very tough subject. I'm very grateful to be here and present with all of you today. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Paul. And thank you, Kimberly Renee, for coming on board here today.
Thank you for having us.
You're most welcome.
I'd like to begin by sharing my screen and sharing a video with all of us here called Matthew 4 Seconds, dedicated to your son, Dana Matthew. And this video is by Margaret Cheatham Williams. And we're going to play this video right now. We want to give her credit for her video creativity. But here we go. I'm sharing the screen now. And share and open. Here we go. I'll let this play out. It's a 3-minute video, so let's sit back and listen if it can even load. Hope it does. Yeah.
Hey, it's Matt. I'm not in class, at work, or I'm out running. So just leave me a message, I'll get back to you.
At the top. Oh, it's nice to hear it. Sounds like it hasn't changed. 6:23, he sent a text message to a friend, said peace out, and 2 joggers saw a young man jump from the bridge at 6:25. He didn't want to go back on the medications. He didn't want to go back to the hospital. He just needed a way out.
About 30 people a year take their lives from the Golden Gate Bridge that we know of. Each year there are 3 or 4 people who are not recovered. If the bridge were different, I think an awful lot of these people would make different decisions, make different choices.
It's a bridge. It's beautiful. I mean, it's iconic. We just, you can't get around it. It's structural, like a world wonder sort of thing. So I have really no animosity towards the bridge. I have a lot of animosity for the people who won't put a barrier up. They know that people come there and jump because of their mental illness. And that's only 1/3 of the people. Another 2/3 of those people that come to the bridge are taken off the bridge every year.
There's a lot of work being done to try and get the net built and get the funding going. Why should I have to spend any money to stop people from doing something stupid? Well, I've come to find out that for the most part, it's not really stupid.
The issue with mental health is it's not accepted as a physical problem. When you're talking about 30 people dying a year, you know, why is that considered acceptable at any level? Your whole life turns over. You just take little bits at a time and let it heal over and pick at it a little bit more until you're a little more healed through it all. It is so hard to hear about it over and over again. We all feel the same pain again. It's like a lie of omission. By doing nothing, they're intentionally killing these people. You get 4 seconds when you jump off the bridge, and there's no phone on the way down. You don't get a second chance.
So I'm just trying to put the, let's see. Okay. Wow, that is abruptly powerful and moving. And Dana and Kimberly Renee, I'm so sorry for your immeasurable losses. I can't say it enough. We love you guys so much, and it's so tragic what happened, and you know it can never be undone. But thank you for allowing me to hold water and wait with that video and being able to share that. Once again, Margaret Cheatham Williams made that video. Paul, I want to go straight to you now. And if you could help us understand the true history behind this problem at the Golden Gate Bridge of suicide.
Well, you know, Kevin, our research has indicated, and research that our supporters have done shows us that an effort to deal with the suicide problem on the Golden Gate Bridge goes back to 1939 when there were 11, and the California Highway Patrol formally asked the Bridge District to add a structure to restrain or stop the suicides straight out. Since the 30s, it seems like every 10 years or so, there was some concerted effort to get the bridge to put up a barrier, or what they're finally doing is putting up a net. But all of those came up short. And some of them came up short with substantial support in the community, substantial editorial support from the local newspapers. There was a lot of apparent support, but there wasn't the really kind of concerted and persistent effort that was necessary to make the change. So when we looked at this, what got us started really was an article in the New Yorker magazine in 2003, which really ran through the entire history and interviewed a number of families, as Margaret Williams' video did, and went through the whole story. That particular publication triggered 2 events that got us started. The first, of course, was Eric Steele's film, The Bridge, which made a very visual, very powerful public statement capturing 19 of the 24 suicides that happened in calendar year 2004, as well as many of the stories, including, I think that was the public introduction to Kevin Hines, if I'm not mistaken. Following that, or at the same time, a group of psychiatrists got together and wanted to address the issue, led by Mel Blaustein, and began work on dealing with it. They asked me to join as a consultant on the project, which I did. And that got going, but it was still kind of constrained by its profession, I think is the polite way to say it. So after a year or so of that, 2 of the parents who had direct experience in this, David Hull, who'd lost his daughter Kathy, and Pat Hines, who's Kevin's father, decided that something more needed to be done, and something that gave more powerful voice to people with lived experience in this particular problem, a more active role. And that eventually led to the formation of the Bridge Rail Foundation, with Dave and Pat and myself being the co-founders. So that's what got us going. It turns out that observation about the need to persist was very true, because we launched the foundation in 2005, and we're not able to actually celebrate the beginning of construction of the net until 2017. So it's been a long haul, and we've seen many families continue to suffer loss. Both Dana and Kimberly Renee's loss came after we got into this and had been into it for several years, and I know many more. As you mentioned, Kevin, it's been 30-35 suicides a year in the last decade, so it's a persistent problem. Fortunately, the net is under construction. Unfortunately, it has been delayed by some internal issues within the contractor, as best I can understand it. But it is proceeding, and it will be completed. It is fully funded and has all the permits that it needs. And I believe the struts that are going to hold up the net are almost all installed at this point. So we're making distinct progress.
Wow, what a journey. I mean, 83 years basically of death, and here we are finally rounding the corner of getting a net up on the bridge to stop those suicides there. I'm going to go to you, Kimberly Renee, just for a moment. I really want to know, and I'll go to you, Dana, after this, but I want to know, Kimberly Renee, and then Dana, in losing your sons, what has been the hardest part for each of you? And we'll start with Kimberly.
I think the hardest part is that you can't undo it. I mean, when it happened, you think of all the issues that come up in your life and how you resolve them. And I'm always like an eternal optimist. I'm like the most optimistic one in my family. And whenever somebody tells me, oh, you can't do this or we can't do this, I say, we can find a way. Well, when Kyle jumped, there was no way to undo it. There was just no way. And it still sometimes feels like it just happened yesterday. And I do feel like it's going to feel like that for me, for everyone that knew Kyle, like it just happened yesterday sometimes. And other times it feels like he's just off to college, or, he's just not here right now. But it lives with you forever. It changes you forever.
It must. I can't even imagine. And Dana, what is your reaction to feeling this every day and knowing that Matthew's not coming home?
It was really difficult because we didn't have body recovery. And so he was missing. He is still just a missing person, and he's not included in any of these statistics. So there's that hope that lingered, that maybe he is somewhere, maybe he got out, who knows? Or maybe it was another unfortunate mother's son who jumped. It's hard to know. So it was a very long, lingering time. You just can't give that hope up. But when Matthew would have turned 25, we celebrated his life and had a big celebration. Took family and friends out to the Golden Gate Bridge, took our flowers, took some Irish soil because he had traveled to Ireland and absolutely loved it. So he can't get to Ireland, so we brought it to him. And originally we had to have special permission because that was the same weekend the Golden Gate district celebrated their 75th anniversary. So while we were on the bridge, they were having their festival at Crissy Field. So a lot of mixed emotions that day too. And yeah, over time, it is, as Kimberly Renee said, some days it's just right there as raw as can be. And other days, then you just think of their smile and go, oh, what would he think about this? And you kind of laugh because you know his reaction. But then it got much more difficult. We were getting ready to celebrate his 10th anniversary. And my husband, Mark, passed away from a massive heart attack. So it's been a struggle, not having both of them, but I have my older son, David, and we were really blessed. Mark found out 2 days before he died that he was going to be a granddad. So yeah, so we were very glad he knows. We know he's watching over, and in that November, when Matthew jumped, is when my grandson Noah was born.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, it's been a little roller coaster.
It's been quite a roller coaster for you, Dana, and for you, Kimberly Renee, as well. And Paul, you are trying with the Bridge Rail Foundation to close the gap and stop this in perpetuity, forever. What was the legislative journey in making all this happen? How did that come together, and what information are you privy to as it regards to the funding being allocated finally, and the permits being approved and all that? How involved was Bridge Rail in that?
Well, on the legislative side, first of all, the Golden Gate Bridge District is an independent public agency with appointed officials from a 6 or 7 county region, I believe, including San Francisco and all the counties running up north to the Oregon border, except Humboldt County. So it's a little obtuse itself. Obviously, the decision makers that we had to impact were the staff leadership of the Bridge District and the Bridge District directors themselves. However, funding for most of these things these days comes primarily from state and federal sources. The bridge has limited access to funds because of its structure and the fact that it's basically just collecting tolls. So we knew we'd need outside funds as well. So one of the first things we did was circulate a letter with the cooperation of the 2 members of Congress who represent the Bridge District, Nancy Pelosi and God, I'm forgetting her name. She's retired. Anyway, the woman who represented Marin County. Both of them agreed to send a letter around within the Bay Area congressional delegation. So we ended up with a support from the entire Bay Area congressional delegation saying the Bridge District should deal with this. As things turned out, the Bridge District needed a great deal of legislative support on the federal side. At the time, however, the chair of the Senate committee that handles transportation issues was a former member of the Bridge Board and United States Senator Barbara Boxer at that time. And she was able to get the legislation that was necessary to basically loosen up the funds to make this happen. Throughout all of this process, so this is I'm describing in very concise period here, about a 7 or 8 year period of back and forth with what needed to happen at the state and federal levels. State level, we had some legislative changes as well. We had some support out of the transportation funds there. The district was eventually able to contribute some money, and some money came actually directly out of the mental health system, although a relatively small amount, but it was still symbolically brought in kind of at the last minute as almost a bit of a surprise. But what we needed to do was develop and maintain a network of political support to ensure that we'd get the permits that we needed and get the funding that was necessary to do it. And that's given us a great deal of experience in this type of fight, and experience that we're very willing to share now with others who are confronting public transportation systems, whether they're bridges or railroads or anything else really, where the campaign has to address the complex interaction of these public facilities and their often lack of safety for suicidal individuals.
And so would you say it's been a very important fight for reduction of access to lethal means? Would that be
exactly the point, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Kimberly, Renee, you and your family did something pretty amazing during one of the hearings that I attended with my wife, Margaret, I think that we were all at the Golden Gate Bridge District, you presented the bridge board with what I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, was 150,000 signatures from around the world saying raise the net now. Is that accurate, first of all, and do you recall that?
Yes, I do recall that, and yes, Dana was key in helping me with the change.org. I had thought of it, before I had even got involved with Bridge Rail or anything of, what could I do? But really having an organized effort was really effective. And yeah, it was just amazing getting all those signatures through change.org. And then also the comments. When you have somebody writing in the comments, yes, I lost my mom to that bridge 35 years ago and it still haunts me every single day. I did point that out to the directors of the Golden Gate Bridge District to read those comments and how personal they were about people that actually lost someone to that bridge. They were hearing from more people than they probably have ever heard of, from. So they got, the printed out version, then we gave an electronic version also.
And Dana, what was your role in that whole process? Please.
Well, we had been doing some walks in association with AFSP and NAMI, and we had a little table set up asking for signatures, but it wasn't getting enough, and it wasn't showing us how people are impacted across the country and around the world. Okay.
So you guys partnering on that really helped it flourish, and you founding change.org and utilizing that service to get, and what was the accurate number, you guys, of how many signatures you received?
It's over 150,000. Do you remember?
No, I don't. It's been so long. Yeah.
Well, that's fine. Over 150,000. That makes it crystal clear. That's amazing. And I vividly remember that moment where I think it was Manuel picked up the box and put it on the table, and it made a thump on the table. And they had an opulent board table that fit 16 members. It seemed very nicely finished, and to put that box on it and to show these 150,000 signatures from around the world, I believe it really shocked those board members. And I'm going to ask you, Paul, am I right to say that it was June 27, 2014 when they approved the net? Is that accurate? I'm trying to remember the exact date of the hearing that they you might not remember, but I just vividly remember the moment where we were all hugging and kissing, and that moment is forever etched in the Suicide: The Ripple Effect documentary. But do you recall that date exactly, or no?
I'd have to look them up to be exactly sure, but there are a number of key dates that reflect the complexity of getting something like this through. There was the selection of the net as the preferred option, which happened in 2008.
Right.
And then after that was done and some of the preliminary engineering came in, there was another approval of that to go forward and try to get the money for the final engineering and design work. And then finally accepting the money to do it and signing a contract. And I think all four of us were there when they actually decided to award the contract, which was December of 2016.
2016. Okay. All right. Well, getting my dates a little mixed up, but I'll never forget when Johnny Moylan put his. I think he even had a small gavel, if I'm not mistaken. But he said, all in favor, aye, and everyone said aye. And it was just we had been in those meetings for 12 years, and it just seemed like the one person that would object was always going to be there, and because. Was it true they needed a unanimous vote? Was that accurate?
It was a unanimous vote on a motion by Johnny Moylan, who had several months before lost his grandson to suicide from the bridge.
From the very bridge, which he was the board member of. That part blows my mind, and my condolences for his family for sure. Well, you guys, this is really powerful stuff, and what makes me so happy. After seemingly so much darkness, is that this thing that I call the harbinger of death is going to become the largest, brightest, and most powerful beacon for suicide prevention all around the world. I mean, I'm once again so sorry, Dana and Kimberly Renee, and everybody who's lost people to the Golden Gate Bridge. But it's going to become a symbol in 2003 when that net is done, that we can do this anywhere, that we can stop suicides and we can reduce access to lethal means all around the world if we just believe in ourselves and fight that good fight. But it also goes to show you what a small group of like-minded people can do with a great deal of hard work and dedication to one cause. And I think that's going to inspire a lot of people. What do you guys think? I'll start with Kimberly Renee.
Yeah, I've already had a few people reach out to me that have had issues with other bridges in their communities and in different states. And I went ahead and, texted back them and then also referred them to Bridge Rail Foundation, because I know that they really want to assist other members of the community, other people that have lost loved ones, so they too can have, some type of deterrent, because it doesn't happen just here, it happens everywhere.
That's right. Thank you very much for that. And Paul, what are your thoughts on this whole process and where we are today?
Well, first of all, we should be clear that this is an ongoing tragedy at Golden Gate.
Yes.
Just today, Dana and I were in contact with a family that lost someone in the last week. So it continues, and we want to get this thing done as quickly as possible. So there's some real frustration with the ongoing delays. But the fact of the matter is that, number one, this is, from my perspective, kind of a small social justice issue that required a very intense focus on the decision making, and that's pretty much what we did with Bridge Rail. Is we stayed focused on the decision making and getting the public agency decision makers to come up with the right strategy and the right right approach. We think we were successful with that. It's just taken a very, very long time. And I don't know if we would have had the kind of persistence that was necessary. In fact, the Golden Gate history suggests that we wouldn't, without the concerted effort on the part of so many people with lived experience. Both Kimberly, Renee, and Dana are excellent examples of that. But we had many, many people in and out, some who were able to stick with us throughout, some who attended hearings and never spoke publicly. I know both Dana and Kimberly, Renee, and a number of others have been regular at many of the public hearings. But the key to that was really their persistence and their insistence on getting this thing solved. It wouldn't have happened without them.
That's absolutely correct, and so important to make note of. It wouldn't have happened without them. And one of those people that had been fighting for this for 30 years was the director of San Francisco Suicide Prevention, Eve Myers.
That's right.
And she and there was one other gentleman who fought for 30 years as well, and I'm blanking on his name.
Is that Jerry Moto?
Jerry Moto, of course. How could I forget? Jerry Moto fought for 30 years alongside Eve and just a handful of other people, the longest in the fight for this cause. So this has really been an effort that started so long ago. And of course, Paul, you mentioned in the beginning of this session that the officers that protected the bridge wanted this done in 1939.
Right.
And so there have been 8 or so fights to make this happen, and we're not there yet, and we are in delays, and that's very frustrating. But we're getting there, and we're making progress. We're making headway. Dana, can you speak to the families that are watching that have lost loved ones to suicide, that still haven't found ways to cope at all? What can you say to them about your, this is a tough question, but what can you say to them about your everyday and how you go about getting through it?
Initially, it was very difficult. I was prepared to cope with it because Matthew was diagnosed at the age of 12 with schizophrenia after his first suicide attempt. And he had several along the way. So he was medicated, you know, he was taking care of things, but he was working and going to school and pretty stable. So it was very much a surprise that this happened. But again, it was something we could almost have anticipated. We just wish we had gotten more signals, more communication from him. A lot of people actually feel guilty, and to a degree I can appreciate that, but they need to remember that they're not inside that person's head, and what they're hearing or seeing or feeling, sometimes they can't even articulate it. But the grief process is the hardest thing. Number one, it's a suicide, and that's very difficult to accept. It's unnatural. It's unnatural because I shouldn't have to bury a son. I'm supposed to go before him. So that's one challenge. The other one is finding the best way to cope, relying on family and friends. There used to be a tale that couples would break up if they lost a child to suicide. And I don't think that's actually true. From what I've read, it is not, because you end up supporting each other so much. But for Mark and I, it was how we balanced it. He'd have his days, I'd have mine, and we were always there together. But it's getting the counseling, because so many people naturally get depressed. It is a source of PTSD. So they need to get the counseling, get on the medications if they can. Talk to your employer and let them know that things just are not going to be right with you for a while. You know, you hear the horror stories that, okay, he's been dead, you know, he decided to do it, get back to normal, get back to work, and people just can't. So it's getting the support, getting the medical support you need, and just letting the process happen. Go ahead and grieve. Don't try and hide it. And then after that year of firsts without them, the first Christmas, the first birthdays, once you get back past that, it's a little more easier. It's not quite the right word, but easier to handle. And then you can start celebrating them and remembering how they laughed and how great their hugs were, how they were always thoughtful to their friends. You know, things like that are going to start coming out and reduce the grief a bit, but it will be a forever thing, as we know, as you never get over it. You're just always shocked. And please ignore the people who say, well, he picked the Golden Gate Bridge because he wanted his death to be glamorous. Things along that line. And that's not the case. He went there because he knew he would die. It's 98% lethality. So realize that people are going to say hurtful, ignorant things, and you have to ignore them or educate them. And that is the direction my grief took me, was into advocacy. I was able to find Bridge Rail, and it was very much the families who made it so important. So if you're really grieving and you have no outlet, find a source, you know, look at NAMI, you know, advocate for mental illness, suicide prevention, or even just support for other families.
Yeah. Thank you, Dana, for all that valuable information. We greatly appreciate it. Paul, what do you say to organizations or individuals or people all over the world that are trying to make an effort to do similar things in their neighborhoods or their communities with bridges, tall buildings, or structures that are experiencing suicides? What words of encouragement would you give them?
Well, first of all, the science is on their side, and I think that you know, we have a good deal of resources that are available, linked off of our website at bridgerail.net. So you're certainly welcome to go there and get some further information. Likewise, I think you'll find that the medical establishment will be pretty much on your side, because restricting easy access to lethal means is one of two really proven methods of reducing suicides. Kevin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm just showing the bridgerail.net
Oh,
website.
okay.
Yeah, sorry, should let you know. Go ahead, keep.
And so that's well established, and I think it's fairly easy to present the argument to people of goodwill. The problem has to do with getting through the logistics and complexities of public agencies and the public decision-making process. And that requires pretty much a focused advocacy effort. If you do that, you're likely to be successful. We think Golden Gate Bridge will stand as a very positive example for why this works. And the Golden Gate Net, of course, is built on an experience they had in Bern, Switzerland, with a net around a building, not a bridge, where the suicides, not only did the suicide stops, the attempt stopped. It went down to zero. And my information, when I gathered that information, they had 10 years experience with the net at that time. So we know this will be a successful approach. And we know that there are people active, several in different locations here in California. And as Kimberly Renee mentioned, we've talked to people from all over the country. And I've got the number up to about 15 different states that are looking at or considering or not acting at all in some cases on restricting bridge suicides. So I think we still have a long way to go, but there's a very positive experience at Golden Gate after a long struggle, but we are looking forward to stopping them here, and we can stop them elsewhere as well.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for all the great work you're all doing. Kimberly Renee, I'm going to give you the last word here. I want to know, if you can, what would you say to kids like Kyle and Matthew that are still alive today, that are considering suicide? What do you say to that young individual who needs a leg up in the world and needs to feel like they matter and they're worthy?
I say to reach out to your friends, to reach out to your family, to talk with them, to find out that how much you are loved, how much you are supported, and that people are here to help you. No matter what you're going through, no matter how horrible and bad it is, people want you here, they love you, and they want to help you.
Thank you, all of you, so much for being a part of this panel. I cannot tell you how moving this was for me, and I've known you all for a very long time. I love you all very much. I'm grateful for you to the 10th degree. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the Hope Rising Bridge Rail Foundation panel. And I hope you learned a great deal, and I hope you share this with as many people as humanly possible. And for everyone watching right now, and if it is on the date that we're launching this on September 26th, be here tomorrow and every day after that. You are valued, you are loved, you are worthy, and you matter. And suicide is never the solution to your problem. It is the problem. And all we want for you is to stay. Guys, thank you very much. I'm going to end the recording there. I appreciate you all so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.